Hey all, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. So I don't know about you, but I used to wake up every day with this feeling inside my gut. And you're going to hear me talking about it a lot. It was this feeling that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, that something was off. And I didn't know if it was lies told to me during childhood, right? That I was supposed to be big and famous and all these crazy things, and I obviously didn't turn out to be that yet, or or it was something else entirely. But I felt like something was wrong, and as I started to dug into it and I started to talk to people, a lot of people started to feel that way. And it was like I was hanging out and seeing all these people, and I knew all of these people who felt like something was wrong, like we weren't living up to our true potential, like we weren't expressing ourselves and creating like we should be. And so when I say we're going to fix the economy, what I really mean is by fixing the economy, I think we can fix the world. And what I mean by that is, politically speaking, I've said this before, politically speaking, you cannot have a free people. You cannot say people are free if they are strapped by debt that constricts their choices, right? And so I want to talk about a book I read this summer that changed my outlook on money and the history of it forever. It's called Debt. I have it right here by David Graeber. It's a great book. It's like 500 pages. David Graeber, he passed away, I think, last year, which was super sad. But he was an anthropologist and an economist, which is actually a very rare cross. And what he actually talks about in this book is the myths of barter, and the conflict there between economics and anthropology, and then actually the history of money. And he goes through, based on the limited history we have, where money came from, how it was originally developed, and how it came to be what it is now. The largest insight in it, besides the fact that the first capitalistic society seems to have appeared in China, was actually that money is a unit of measure, right? Let me say that again. So money itself is worthless. And we talked about last episode how Nixon changed that and affected the world, and we moved off the gold standard. But even when you think about gold, it's a metal like any other metal, right? Like technically today, I think lithium is actually worth more than gold. And so there's no reason why gold, right, should technically be a precious metal that a currency can be backed off of, and lithium can't, or silver can't, or something else entirely, right? So a lot of what we assign to worth or wealth or currency is in fact worthless. What currency is, or what money is it's a unit of measure, okay? And pretend this is a ruler, or this is all the money we have in the world, right? When you allow people to charge interest on this, you all know what I'm going to say now. Interest is the enemy of our economy and to our creative production. When you allow people to charge interest on money, you're essentially allowing them to make the ruler larger. And that's where things get off track, right? That's where we have inflation, and that's where we have a lot of other things. What we also have is you have the ability then for entire people, very intelligent, very hardworking people, very dedicated people, who are now focused on making the ruler larger instead of using the ruler to work for the good of themselves, the good of society, and the good for the rest of us. And that's really what it comes down to, is if we can get rid of interest, we can shift the goals of the entire ruler, right? We can shift the goal of the entire economy from making the ruler as big as possible, ergo making as much money as possible, to focusing and setting goals for humanity that are worth having, goals we had back before the dot-com bubble, right? Capitalism, by definition, is not technically what we have in a lot of the markets, and particularly in America today, right? The idea of capitalism is to actually create a huge bank or pool of wealth to invest in the longevity and future of our species, right? It's not capitalism, based on what you might be told, is actually not about Wall Street. It's not about some, stock brokers telling you which ones to buy. It's not about actually numbers and how much one company is worth or another. Capitalism, as its core, is about the pooling of wealth in order to invest in longer term technologies, investments, and beneficial things for humanity and for our species as a whole. And so I want you to imagine, right, we have interest. And this was where money really started out, right? We had money, and back in the day, we did not allow people to charge interest on it, right? Jewish people were actually one of the first in recorded history that we can tell that were allowed to charge interest on things, right? They were some of the first bankers, which some historians have cited to be the root of anti-Semitism, which we're not really sure about. Some of the proof on that is a little dicey, but it's an interesting speculation, one that may or may not have merit. Where we are today, so this is where we were, right, before you could make interest on money. And where we are today now is, imagine this paintbrush is where we are today now with the amount of money in our system. And so you can see that directly is going to produce inflation. But what it's also going to do is it's going to disproportionately produce it. And what I mean by that is the people who already have money, right, who already have some of the ruler, are going to be able to get more of the ruler naturally, because over time they're just going to be able to make interest off that ruler, and there go, as the ruler expands, so proportionally does their wealth. And so what I'm saying is you have the expansion of existing wealth under an interest-based system versus the constant production and creation of new forms of wealth, right? And I want to be very clear on this. So a lot of economic theories, particularly democratic and new and for the people and equitable and equality economics, talks about taking money from the wealthy, and that's not at all what my policy is about, right? I think a lot of that is rooted in envy for someone else's fortune that we'd prefer to have, right? That's not what I'm proposing here. What I'm proposing is we simply change the goal of the game and how it works, so everyone can have a better chance at building and using part of the ruler, right? We're not going to just take money from the wealthy. From what we can tell, the wealthy appear in any society. Some people just seem better at making money and better fit to pool that money in for whatever reasons, right? So going necessarily after the wealthy does not seem to be a very productive venture, nor does it seem to be one that really helps the capitalistic market or the goal of what we want, right? Again, we want this ruler to invest in the future and help all of humanity survive and live a higher quality of life. And so, long story short, the economic policy or change to our policy that I'm suggesting is that money get back to being a unit of measure and helping us exchange goods and services, instead of being a game where we can measure how long or how much any one of us can own of the ruler, right? As the money supply expands from an interest-based perspective, you're going to have a disproportionate amount of that ruler going to people who already have money or going to people who can loan money, right? Ergo banks and things. And so if you're not charging interest for money, you're going to give more pieces of the natural ruler to more people, and thereby increase the chances and ability for more people to create wealth, right? The future of humanity, I truly believe, is for the majority of us to be wealthy. And based on where our ancestors were 100 years ago, you could arguably say the majority of us, particularly in America, are already there. It's just a matter of ensuring we give everybody a fair shot, and ensuring that the money itself or the ruler itself gets back to its original purpose and theory of what it's supposed to be, right? Money is not a means to an end. Money is a tool. It's a ruler, as we've been discussing, and we need to get rid of interest so we can free people, right, from their mortgages, from their cars, and from all the other things that really bog them down, so they can use part of the ruler that they have for creation and for better lives, and to try out dreams and follow passions and do things that will not only create a richer life and a richer experience for them, but in return create a richer experience for us as a species, right? What I want to introduce you now to is the idea of money or economics being seen as a science of the transfer of energy, instead of it being seen as something, I gotta quit hitting my microphone, being seen as like a math game where we try to pool and accumulate as much of it as we possibly can, right? Money is a tool. It's a unit of measure, so we can exchange goods and services and creative output, so we can enhance each other's experiences in this conscious life, right? And so we need to get back to viewing money as a tool and not a means to an end, because not only are there studies out there where they've actually proven if you make over than 70 grand, your happiness does not actually keep increasing. So everyone who makes 70 grand, under 70 grand, they basically keep getting happier until they make 70 grand. And then once you make 70 grand a year, above that, you don't actually get any happier. And so there is an amount of money that seems to be needed for everyone. But beyond that, there's that famous saying, right? More money, more problems. And so it's this idea that if we can ensure the unit of measure gets back to being a tool, and more people can effectively use that tool, then there's going to be more creative endeavors. There are going to be more leisure time, more health, more things, and more positive energy exchanges, creating a more enriching life for all of us, right? We need to start viewing economics not as a math problem, but as an exchange of energy. And if you think about it like that, the quality of that energy is very critical to the system and the society in which we're going to be creating, right? We need to get out of thinking about balancing the equation, and we need to think about how can we use this equation or use this tool to create a higher vibrational level of energy exchange, right? How can we create better things and higher vibrational things to elevate and evolve us as a species, right? Economics should not be separate from our idea of evolving as a species and developing, right? And to do that, I have a lot of other ideas like free education, no income tax, a lot of great things. And it all boils down to, and it all starts with viewing this equation or viewing this ruler of money and viewing how it should work instead of how it currently works right now. But we're going to get into that over the rest of this series. Thanks again for tuning in. You're beautiful. You're brilliant. I'm so glad you're alive. I'll see you next time. Thanks all. Bye.